Breaking news, guys, it's finally here. The 2020 Toyota Supra just made its global debut at the 2019 North American International Auto Show in Detroit. Now, the Supra has been gone here in the US for pretty much my whole entire life, so we're all super excited that it's finally back here in the US. We got a really big video for you today, and in this video we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, including styling, a lot of information about performance. We're going to talk a little bit about what kind of trims and technology will be available on the 2020 Supra. Of course, we're going to tell you what it might be competing with. We're going to tell you when it's going to be going on sale. And of course, we're also going to compare the new Supra to the last Supra we had here in the US. And at the end of this video, Roman and Nathan are going to do a little segment of Know You're Wrong, which I suspect will be a not so friendly conversation about the Supra's new styling. And that's all coming up right now. After 21 years, the Supra finally makes its return. Of course, this new model was co-developed with BMW alongside the brand new Z4. So, what's happening with the new A90? That's the in-house designation Supra. Well, we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. Let's start with styling because, well, obviously it looks very different from the old Supra. The styling on the 2020 Supra pulls design cues from the FT1 concept that came out a little ways back. Obviously, the production version is dialed back a little bit, but it still has some of the same cool styling cues that the FT1 concept had. One of the ones that's particularly interesting is the double bubble roof. It's got two bubbles in the roof to make more room for the driver and passenger while still keeping the roofline as low as possible. Very striking lines, a lot of creases. It's a very interesting design. Of course, it has an integrated rear spoiler that Toyota says is designed to kind of harken back to the last generation Supra. It's a similar shape, although it's built right into the hatch. At the front of the new Supra, there are some new 6-lens LED headlights, and it's available in a very wide range of colors. Of course, there's the red, which is what you're seeing on the screen right now, but it'll also be available in yellow, blue, silver, white, black, gray, and there's a matte gray color that Toyota will sell you as well. Okay, enough about styling. Let's move on to performance figures because obviously this is the most important thing about the Supra is how it performs. Now, it was developed by Gazoo Racing, which is a part of Toyota, and at launch there will be one power plant available. It's a 3-liter turbocharged inline 6-cylinder engine. It's going to make 335 horsepower and 365 pound-feet of torque. It'll send that power to the rear wheels through an 8-speed torque converter automatic transmission. Toyota claims that the 0 to 60 time will be 4.1 seconds 0 to 60, and it'll go up to an electronically limited top speed of 155 miles per hour. Being a sports car, you want to have good balance, and Toyota says that it does have 50-50 weight distribution front to back. Of course, like I mentioned, it's rear-wheel drive. Now, the back wheels will be powered through an active differential. This is a really special piece of tech that uses an electronic limited slip diff to be able to send power to either wheel in the back. So it can actively split power between the two rear wheels, which is really great when you're trying to go fast on a racetrack. Toyota gave it 2 different drive modes, which is actually kind of interesting. It's not a whole lot of drive modes. There's normal mode and sport mode. Sport mode is going to reduce traction and stability control, sharpen the throttle response a little bit. It'll make the steering a little bit heavier, quicker shifts, more aggressive diff tuning, and it'll make the exhaust a little bit louder. As for ride and handling stuff, well, it has adaptive variable suspension standard on every model of the new Supra. In the front, it's a double joint spring strut with aluminum control arms to help reduce unsprung weight. And in the rear, it's a multi-link, a 5-arm multi-link rear suspension setup with 19-inch alloy wheels standard at all 4 corners. The wheels are, however, staggered slightly, so they have Michelin Pilot Super Sport tires, a 255/35 R19 in the front, and a slightly wider 275/35 R19 in the rear. Stopping the new Supra will be a set of Brembo brakes, 13.7-inch rotors up in the front with 4-piston brake calipers. Okay, what about the different trims and tech that'll be available on the new Supra? Well, it's going to launch with the 3.0 and the 3.0 Premium. In the 3.0 trim, you get Alcantara power seats with a memory function, but if you get the Premium, the biggest difference is that those seats are now heated and they're made of leather instead of Alcantara. Of course, you get a digital instrument cluster with an available heads-up display, which I actually think looks really interesting. In the 3.0 trim, you get a 6.5-inch infotainment display with a little rotary control on the center console. And if you pay close attention, you might notice that that looks very similar to some of the units that BMW uses. If you move up to the 3.0 Premium, your screen gets a little bigger, 8.8 inches with navigation. It also comes with Apple CarPlay. Sorry, Android users like myself, no Android Auto at this time. You also get wireless charging and a 12-speaker JBL audio system. The nav and audio combination is optional on the 3.0 trim, but it comes standard on the 3.0 Premium. And then the Launch Edition, which is a special version of the Supra, will be based on the 3.0 Premium trim. Competition. This is a big deal because the Supra is obviously a sports coupe and it's going to be competing with some pretty good cars. So this is a list of the cars that we think it's going to compete pretty directly with. Of course, the Porsche 718 Cayman, the new BMW Z4, which this car was co-developed with, although the Z4 has a bit more power and a bit more torque. Also, the Nissan 370Z, this might be a pretty direct competitor. It's another Japanese sports coupe. But we also think the Ford Mustang, specifically the GT and the Chevy Camaro SS, with their big naturally aspirated V8s, might be good competition for the Supra as well. I want to hear what you guys think about competition. Let us know in the comments down below what you would be comparing the Supra to if you decide to go and try and buy one. What about the ever-important question of pricing? Well, the base 3.0 trim of the 2020 Toyota Supra will start at $49,990. To jump to the 3.0 Premium trim, you'll have to spend $53,990. And finally, that Launch Edition will cost $55,250. Toyota's going to make 1,500 versions of that Launch Edition Supra, and each one will come individually numbered with a special badge on the dashboard that features the production number as well as Toyota's president's signature. Interestingly though, it will be built in Graz, Austria alongside the BMW Z4. So it's an Austrian-built Toyota. That's kind of a weird piece of information for you. Okay, how does it compare to the last generation Supra that we got? The A80, that's Toyota's internal designation. Well, it's a very interesting picture actually. So basically, the new Supra is a little bit smaller, but also should perform a lot better. Wheelbase-wise, the new Supra is a little bit shorter, 97.2 inches of wheelbase compared to the old Supra, which had 100.4 inches of wheelbase. In length, the new Supra is a little shorter, 172.5 inches overall compared to 177.7 inches for the last generation. The new Supra is a little wider, 73 inches wide versus 71.3 for the previous generation. It is a tiny bit taller, 50.9 inches versus 50.2 inches, and I suspect the reason the new Supra is a little taller is because of that double bubble roof that might make it stick up a little bit. Because the new Supra is a little wider, the front and rear track widths, the space between the wheels, is also a little wider. On the new Supra, it's 62.8 inches in the front and 62.6 inches in the rear. Of the old Supra, it was 59.8 inches in the front and 60 inches in the rear. Curb weight. This is a really interesting picture here. So the new Supra is actually a little over 200 pounds lighter than the previous generation Supra. It's amazing that they were able to make it lighter considering how much more safety and technology manufacturers are being forced to put into new cars these days. The fact they were able to shave off that much weight compared to the last generation is pretty impressive if you ask me. Of course, this new Supra is also a fair amount more powerful, about 15 horsepower more than that twin-turbo 3-liter V6 that was in the old one, 335 horsepower overall, and it's more torquey, a lot more torquey, 50 pound-feet more than the previous generation. All of this, well, it plays a big part in making this new Supra a lot quicker 0 to 60. 4.1 seconds for the new generation compared to about 5 seconds 0 to 60 for the Mark IV Supra. And transmissions, well, this one is a little bit of a disappointment to the lovers of the manual transmission. The new Supra, as of right now, with the straight 6 turbo, will only be available with an 8-speed automatic transmission. Obviously, the last generation, you could get it with, actually there was a 5-speed manual transmission, then there was a 6-speed manual transmission, or you could get a 4-speed automatic. All right, well, there is really all the information you guys need to know about the 2020 Toyota Supra. So I'm going to hand it over to Roman and Nathan, who are going to do a little segment of No, You're Wrong.
So Nathan, here's the $1,000 question. What do you think of the styling of the new Supra?
Blah.
Really?
I don't like it.
Why not?
I'm I'm a little upset with what the vehicle turned into.
Okay.
Okay, so do you remember the FT1, the concept?
I remember.
Which was just gorgeous.
Yeah, I was in Detroit. It was gorgeous, very sexy.
This looks like a kind of chubbied up version of that. I know I'm one to talk, but the point is that it doesn't look as sleek and as sexy as that concept. Not even close.
So I would say, if you look at the very first Celica Supra, right? That was basically a Celica that had a little bit more power, a little bit more gustoed up, and then they turned it into just a Supra. And those first ones were very...
Awesome.
yeah, but they were very square, right?
Well, the pop-up headlights is my favorite.
Yeah, they were very square, and then they became a lot more sophisticated. They became more of a GT, right? And then the very last one, before they took your hiatus, was round and kind of, I would say, fat-butted. The last one that everybody wants, right? The one that is a hot one. I thought that one was rather ugly, especially when it was compared to like a 300ZX, which it directly competed against.
It did. It competed against the 300ZX. It also competed against the RX-7 back then. And that car was one of my favorites in terms of design, like almost ever.
And
but
Mitsubishi.
The point is that this current car doesn't feel like that car. It doesn't feel like any of those cars. It doesn't feel like a Toyota. And you know what? It's not built where Toyotas are built.
It's built in Austria.
Yeah, it's built in Austria.
It's built because they co-developed it with BMW. So obviously the power plant is out of a Z4 or shared with a Z4.
Which I think is better looking, by the way.
And the interior is a little BMW-ish.
A little.
It's got a Corolla-like steering wheel.
Let's take the horn off and put Toyota on there. Ah, it's a Toyota. No, I mean, there are worse interiors to share, right? I mean, you know, high quality.
Yeah.
Sure.
Look, if you're going to share components and you're going to share a platform, there are much worse companies than BMW to partner with.
Oh, yeah.
A straight 6 single turbo? Dude, that's pretty awesome.
It is. The output's pretty good. It should be better. It should be 400 horsepower. It should be.
You know, there's one coming.
You say that. Gazoo Racing, I'm sure, has developed it, but it's not here. Guys, I'm not trying to poo-poo completely on the car. Yeah, I am. Well, look, this is Toyota, the biggest company on earth. They're the biggest, baddest, hardcore, build anything they want because they have more money than God. And they took a car and they mellowed it out. They made it more mellow than the concept, and it isn't as beefy as it should be.
So, you know, I see a lot of the RCF in the Supra.
That hurts me.
And I like the RCF.
I love the RCF.
I think the RCF is sexy. It's got these kind of flowing lines that then meld into the body, into the side, into the structure of the vehicle so that the car looks like it's moving even when it's standing still. And I think a lot of that kind of motion, inherent motion, is in the Supra.
Well, I had the same lines on my first prom date. The thing is that you don't know
while she was standing still to get away from you.
To run away. That was pretty much it. The thing is that you're comparing what is a GT car, really a masculine hammer GT car. That's kind of like, how do people put it? A gauntlet with a silk glove or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in the Toyota, it's kind of like, yeah, we're going to be kind of sort of fast. Yeah, we're going to be almost high performing. Yeah, we're almost there, but we're not because, once again, they softened everything.
Well, you know, it's one of those cars that's, I think, like the interesting girl in high school, right? You look at her and you don't think about her twice, and then all of a sudden you see her in the right light or you see her in the right dress, and you're like, holy cow, she's sexy. That's how I look at the Supra. I think when you initially look at it, the lines aren't beautiful, but then when you look at it from certain angles, like from the rear or directly from the front, I think the car really does start to kind of show its true sports car cred.
No, you're wrong.
No, you're wrong. Dude.
No, you're wrong, dude. I'm sorry. I get what you're trying to say, and I can see a couple somewhat appealing components, but the whole picture doesn't work for me. Look, I know some of you guys out there want to, have me lynched for this because, God forbid. But I bet you some of you guys agree with me out there because it just doesn't have that passion that the concept had that we've been looking at and looking at and looking at for years. It's Toyota. They should be able to build the concept.
So, look, you've got two of the best car companies in the world getting together, right?
Yes.
So what could go wrong? You've got a German /Austrian /Japanese. Never mind.
What could go wrong with that type of an alliance?
All right.
Nothing.
I didn't help myself there.
No, you didn't at all.
Well, guys, let us know what you think in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching. Remember, check out TFLcar.com for more news, views,
and real world reviews.
and no, you're wrong.
No, you are so wrong.